He's not my one you got.
No? Who's yours?
Death.
Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. Happy Halloween! Since we all love Game of Thrones so much, and we all love Halloween so much, I thought it'd be awesome to put the two together. Like Game of Thrones is the peanut butter, and Halloween is the chocolate. I guess that would make my channel like the Reese's Pieces of YouTube. So let me start by saying officially there's no actual Halloween that they celebrate in Game of Thrones, or in the world of Westeros or Essos. But they do pray to the stranger. It's a lot like the Day of the Dead, or Honoring the Dead, which is actually a separate holiday in real life, Dia de los Muertos. But they do actually have something that they do to honor the dead, or pray to the god of death. So here's what I'm going to do. In honor of Halloween, I'm going to talk about my favorite moments on the show and in the series that invoke the stranger, and then I'm going to talk about my favorite scariest moments on the show. Just in case this first part includes a few spoilers that you haven't heard about yet, consider this your mild spoiler warning for books 4 and 5. So right away, there are two characters in Game of Thrones that really invoke the stranger, or evoke themes of the stranger, and that is, one, Arya, very obviously, and two, Cersei. So Arya is so deep in bodies in a Game of Thrones that she's like the physical avatar of death on the show. Like if this were Avatar, the last Airbender series, she would be a death bender. She's very devout. She actually prays to the stranger. That prayer she says actually goes, Whis, Dunsen, Chiswick, Polliver, Raff the Sweetling, the Tickler, the Hound, Sir Gregor, Sir Armory, Sir Ilyn, Sir Meryn, King Joffrey, and Queen Cersei. And then it ends with Vhagar Morghulis. She even tells Beric in the Cave of the Brotherhood that she worships death. I'm actually hoping at a certain point that the show takes her to the east so we can meet the Faceless Men. They're basically like an order of assassins that could be considered like priests of the Faceless One. The mythology gets a little muddled, but the Faceless One is a lot like the Stranger. They're almost the same god, although some people would argue that they're separate gods, but they're basically like many aspect gods that represent death and the unknown. Cersei is associated with the Stranger in a slightly different way. She doesn't wade through bodies like Arya does. He represents mostly the unknown aspect of the Stranger, which basically means she hides her true self. Jaime actually calls this out in book 4, and it's mostly because Cersei lies so much. So essentially she hides her true purpose. Jaime actually has this really nice moment in the series where he basically calls Cersei out, internally at least, for all of her bullshit. So if Cersei is the physical embodiment of anything on the show, it's deception. Cersei actually has a lot of POV chapters in book 4, so if you haven't read that yet, you are in for a treat. But what about my favorite scary moments on the show? In full disclosure, I have read the book, so when I saw the scary moments on the show, or the really shocking moments, I viewed them in a slightly different way than people who were seeing them for the first time or didn't know they were coming. But here they are in order from really scary to I just threw up in front of my TV. Number 3, that moment at the end of Season 2 where the White Walker army marches past Samwell. This is like the beginning of a full-scale zombie invasion. They just walk right out of the mist, and it's really terrifying. They creep a lot like walkers on The Walking Dead. I use the Walking Dead association just because we don't know how fast the whites can move. We've seen White Walkers use weapons really quickly, so we know they can move really fast. They're more like the George A. Romero zombies that kind of evolve over time and gain certain intelligence. But that White Walker moment is more terrifying than it is truly horrifying. The difference is that a terrifying moment is like when a bear is chasing you through the woods. It doesn't really affect your sense of self. You're just really scared. You're like, I don't want this thing to catch me and kill me. Horrifying is something that just alters your fundamental sense of self. Which leads me to number 2. Number 2, Jaime getting his hand cut off. So this moment was actually still so shocking to watch on screen that I was still a little scared a week after I saw it. I almost threw up on my mouth a little bit when I saw it on the show. So the idea now is that Jaime's fundamental sense of self has completely changed. Like after the physical trauma wore off, the psychological damage started to set in. So he basically had to relearn how to become a person. But the good thing is there's a lot of hope because the person he's turning into is actually a much more positive person than the person he was before he lost his hand. But this actually leads me to my favorite scariest moment on the show, a moment from which this character will never recover, psychologically or physically. Number 1, my favorite scariest moment on the show, Theon becoming Reek. Obviously Theon becoming Reek is a long, torturous process, and people get tortured on the show all the time, but how often do you have to watch someone get their, you know what, cut off? So going forward now, nothing that Theon ever does or ever experiences will repair the psychological or physical damage done to him by Ramsay Snow. Even if he ever gets his revenge moment, it still won't heal the damage. He is Reek now and forever, for all time, and that is horrifying. But now it's your turn to tell me your favorite scariest moments on the show. They can be something that I just mentioned, or they can be something that you thought was going to happen on the show but didn't end up happening. Let me know. Since it's Halloween and Dracula just aired, I feel like it would be silly for me not to do a review of that show, even if I'm not going to do a review every week. Be sure to subscribe to get that. I'll be posting that tonight. I hope you guys all have a wonderful Halloween. Thank you so much for helping me get to 30,000 subscribers so fast. I still might go as Jon Snow. I've been growing my hair out long enough. Right now, you can click here to watch that Dracula video, and you can click here to watch all my other Game of Thrones videos. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Halloween. High fives to everyone. See you guys tonight.